Hey guys! Tonight we're stepping into a world most history books forget, not the world of emperors and generals, but the world of ordinary people just trying to survive. The streets, the smells, the sounds, the struggle. This isn't the Rome of marble statues and golden crowns. This is the real Rome. And our journey starts now. Rome. The name itself echoes through history like thunder across 7 hills. We speak of emperors and legions, of conquests and colosseums, of marble and gold. But tonight, we strip away the glory. Tonight, we descend into the streets where the real Rome breathed, sweated, bled, and somehow survived. Before you settle into this journey, take a moment. Where are you reading from? What time is it in your corner of the world? I always wonder who joins me on these explorations: students burning midnight oil, workers stealing moments of peace, dreamers in distant time zones. Drop a comment if you feel inclined. And if the stories I share resonate, if they make you think or feel or wonder, consider subscribing. Not as an obligation, but as a quiet acknowledgement that some stories still matter. Now, dim the lights. Perhaps let a fan run softly in the background, creating that gentle hum of elsewhere. Close your eyes for a moment, then open them not to your world, but to another. A world of sandals and sewage, of state-sponsored crucifixion and street corner philosophy, of grandeur and grime woven together so tightly that no historian's scalpel can separate them. You are not Julius Caesar. You wear no golden laurel crown. You will never recline in marble baths or dine on flamingo tongues while slaves fan you with peacock feathers. No, you are someone far more common, far more invisible, and far more essential to the empire's survival. You are just you, dropped unprepared into the 1st century CE, somewhere in the Subura district of Rome, where the buildings lean toward each other like drunkards sharing secrets and the streets smell of everything humanity tries to forget. Congratulations! You've just become a Roman. You open your eyes to darkness. Not the peaceful darkness of deep sleep, but the gritty, clinging darkness of a room with no windows. Somewhere down the hall, a baby screams with the particular fury of an infant who has discovered that existence is discomfort. A chicken, why is there a chicken indoors, adds its own indignant commentary. Through the wall so thin you could punch through it with determination and a sturdy spoon, your neighbor coughs like a man trying to expel a lung. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a Roman insula, the ancient world's answer to affordable housing, if affordable housing meant a multi-story death trap held together with prayer, poor mortar, and the landlord's complete indifference to your survival. The insula is Rome's great architectural innovation for the masses, and like so many Roman innovations, it's brilliant in concept and terrifying in execution. These buildings climb toward the sky, some reaching 5 or 6 stories, defying both gravity and common sense. They're constructed from timber and mud brick, with foundations that would make a modern engineer weep. The lower floors, where the slightly less poor live, might have stone walls and actual windows. But you're on the 4th floor. Maybe the 5th. The higher you go, the poorer you are, and the more likely your ceiling will collapse when the family above you spills olive oil. Your room is a cubiculum, which sounds almost poetic until you see it. It's smaller than most modern walk-in closets, perhaps 8 feet by 10 if you're lucky. The walls sweat in summer and radiate bone-deep cold in winter. There's no window, just a hole near the ceiling that lets in air, smoke, pigeons, and the occasional adventurous rat. The hole serves another purpose too, when your neighbors above empty their chamber pots directly into the street, as they absolutely do, the splash zone extends surprisingly high. Your bed is a grabatus, a wooden frame with rope woven across it, supporting a mattress stuffed with straw. And lice. Definitely lice. The blanket, assuming you have one, smells like damp wool and the accumulated despair of everyone who's used it before you. You don't want to know how many people that is. Furniture is a concept for people with disposable income. You have none. Your possessions fit in a corner, a clay cup with a chip in the rim, a single tunic that serves as both day wear and night wear, and perhaps a wooden comb if you're feeling particularly fancy. The comb has 3 teeth left and they're all loose. There is no kitchen. Cooking inside the insula is strictly forbidden, not out of concern for your comfort, but because a single spark could turn the entire building into the world's most spectacular bonfire. Fire departments haven't been invented yet. Neither have building codes, tenants' rights, or the concept that a landlord might be responsible for repairs. The lack of a toilet in your room presents certain challenges. Your chamber pot lives in the corner, its presence a constant reminder of biology's demands. Every morning, you'll need to carry this pot down 4 or 5 flights of rickety stairs, through the crowded courtyard, to the street gutter where you'll empty it. Hopefully without slipping. Hopefully without adding your own broken body to the morning's offerings. The sounds of the insula never stop. Through the walls, those paper-thin barriers between you and humanity, you hear everything. Your neighbor praying to his household gods. Your other neighbor arguing with his wife about money. The couple on the other side engaged in activities you'd rather not imagine. Someone's child crying. Someone else's child laughing. A man practicing a speech he'll never give. A woman singing a song from her homeland, wherever that was before Rome swallowed it. The air is thick with smoke from cooking fires, the band doesn't stop everyone, mildew from the perpetual damp, and the unmistakable perfume of unwashed humanity living in close quarters. Downstairs, someone's already baking bread. You can smell it, warm and yeasty, but you're not invited to share. The street vendors have begun their morning chorus, yelling prices for figs and fish guts and yesterday's bread sold at today's prices. In the distance, a centurion's voice cuts through the noise like a blade, barking orders at someone who's probably already bleeding. You're not even out the door yet, and you're already sweating. You're itchy from the straw mattress. You're possibly inhaling lead dust from the plumbing, assuming your building has plumbing, which it doesn't. Your stomach growls. Your back aches from sleeping on a surface that offers approximately the support of a mildly disappointed cloud. Welcome to Rome. You've been awake for 10 minutes, and you've still got 23 hours and 50 minutes to go. Surviving the stairs is your first achievement of the day, and it's not a small one. Roman insula stairs aren't designed for safety, comfort, or dignity. They're steep, narrow, and uneven, each step a slightly different height, as if the builder was experimenting with the concept of surprise. The wooden treads groan under your weight, and you can see daylight through some of them. The ones that don't show daylight show the ground floor, 4 stories down, where a missed step would deposit you in a heap that your neighbors would step around for days before anyone thought to move it. You clutch your chamber pot with one hand and the wall with the other. The wall is damp. You don't want to know with what. The courtyard at the bottom is chaos. Children chase each other through puddles of uncertain origin. A woman argues with a merchant about the price of onions. Someone's goat, yes, someone keeps a goat in the courtyard, has escaped its tether and is investigating a basket of laundry. No one seems particularly concerned. This is normal. Out on the street, the real Rome engulfs you. The Via Suburana stretches before you, lined with shops and workshops and taverns, all of them open to the street, all of them already doing business. A blacksmith's hammer rings against metal. A baker pulls loaves from his oven, the smell almost painful in its appeal. A tanner's shop releases a smell that makes your eyes water, tanning leather requires urine, and the collection pots outside his door are full. Your first task is the chamber pot. You make your way to the street gutter, a shallow channel running along the edge of the road. It carries water from the public fountains, and everything else the city decides to discard, down to the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer. In theory. In practice, the gutter is more of a suggestion than a functioning system. You empty your pot, trying not to think about where this all goes. Spoiler, into the Tiber River, which also serves as Rome's drinking water source. The Romans have many achievements. Understanding germ theory is not among them. But your bladder still demands attention. You haven't used your chamber pot for that purpose, and now nature is making its requirements known with increasing urgency. Time to visit the latrina, the public latrine is a short walk away, tucked between a fuller's shop. They clean clothes using urine. There's a theme emerging, and a tavern that's already serving wine to men who look like they started yesterday and never stopped. You push through the door and enter a room that defies every expectation of privacy you've ever held. The latrine is a long stone bench with holes cut into it, a row of seats facing each other across a narrow room. Beneath the bench, a channel of water flows continuously, carrying away, well, everything. There are no stalls, no dividers, no pretense that elimination should be a private act. This is Rome, and in Rome, even your most intimate moments are public performances. Men sit shoulder to shoulder on the bench, conducting business of all kinds. Two merchants discuss grain prices while squatting over adjacent holes. A retired soldier complains about his sciatica to anyone who'll listen. A man across from you is eating olives, whole olives, pits and all, while maintaining unbroken eye contact with absolute strangers. The acoustics are remarkable. Every fart echoes like a trumpet call, every splash announces itself to the entire assembly. The tersorium hangs on a hook by the door, a sponge on a stick, kept in a bucket of vinegar or salt water. In theory, you rinse it before use. In practice, this sponge has seen things. Unspeakable things. It has served hundreds of Romans, maybe thousands, each one rinsing it as best they can and passing it along. You look at the sponge. The sponge looks back at you with the 1,000-yard stare of an object that has witnessed too much. You could bring your own rag. You could use moss or leaves if you planned ahead. But you didn't, and now you face a choice: use the communal sponge or hold it until you find an alternative. Your body makes the decision for you. You reach for the sponge, trying not to think about its history, its texture, its smell. The vinegar burns. The salt water stings. You wipe quickly and pass the sponge to the next person, who accepts it with the same resignation you felt. When you're done, you wash your hands. No, wait, you don't. There's no soap, no running water for hand washing. Just a communal basin of water that's seen more fingers than a handshake convention. You dip your hands, rinse vaguely, and hope for the best. The man who is eating olives uses the same basin without rinsing first. You try not to notice. You leave the latrine feeling physically lighter and spiritually heavier. Your body is empty. Your soul has been slightly diminished. But that's Rome, and the day is just beginning. Breakfast in Rome is called the ientaculum, and it's a meal that redefines the concept of light. Unless you're wealthy enough to afford eggs, cheese, honey, or fruit, your breakfast consists of two things: bread and wine. And not good wine, wine so diluted with water that it's more water than wine, served in a clay cup that's never been washed because washing would just make it dirtier. Your bread is panis rusticus, the bread of the countryside, which is a polite way of saying bread made from whatever grain was cheapest. It's dense, chewy, and studded with bits of grit from the millstones. Yesterday's bread, probably, or the day before's. It's hard enough to use as a weapon and textured like limestone. You dunk it in your watered wine to make it chewable, a process that turns the wine into a kind of cold bread soup that tastes vaguely of desperation. There's no coffee. The Romans never discovered it. No tea either. No orange juice, no eggs, no bacon, no pancakes. No oatmeal with brown sugar and raisins. No yogurt parfait with granola. None of the comforting morning rituals you take for granted exist. This is breakfast: carbs, mild dehydration, and the dawning realization that you're about to work for 7 hours on this. You eat standing in the street, because you have nowhere else to go. Others do the same, clusters of men and women, children and elderly, all gnawing on bread like they're punishing it for existing. A vendor walks by selling hot chickpea fritters, and for a moment you feel hope. But your coin pouch contains exactly 3 copper asses, and those are spoken for. You watch someone else buy a fritter, trying not to stare at the steam rising from it, the golden brown crust, the way they sprinkle it with salt and eat it with obvious pleasure. Your bread tastes like cardboard and regret. You chew anyway. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you might have a smear of garum to flavor your bread. Garum is Rome's favorite condiment, a fermented fish sauce made by layering fish intestines with salt and letting them rot in the sun for months. The resulting liquid is intensely savory, intensely salty, and intensely fishy. The smell alone could clear a room. But it adds flavor to an otherwise flavorless existence, so you use it when you can. You cannot, today. Your garum supply ran out 3 days ago, and you haven't had the money to buy more. So you chew your bread, sip your wine water, and watch Rome wake up around you. The sun is climbing over the hills, burning off the morning haze. The streets grow more crowded by the minute. Shopkeepers roll up their shutters. Children run to whatever education they might get. Slaves hurry past with messages and packages and determined expressions. And you, free Roman citizen, chew your bread and wonder what the day will bring. Spoiler, it will bring work, unless you're a senator, an equestrian, a poet with a wealthy patron, or someone who inherited land from a relative with no other heirs. You work. And you work hard. Rome runs on labor, the labor of millions of people whose names history never records, whose lives leave no mark on marble, whose existence is measured not in achievements but in endurance. What kind of work do you do? That depends on your skills, your connections, and your luck. You might be a laborer, carrying bricks and mortar to construction sites across the city. Rome is always building something, a new temple, a new aqueduct, a new block of insulae. A new monument to some general's ego. Someone has to carry the materials. That someone is you. You might be a porter, hauling goods from the docks at Ostia to shops and warehouses throughout Rome. The Tiber winds through the city like a muddy artery, carrying grain from Egypt, wine from Gaul, olive oil from Spain, marble from Greece. All of it must be unloaded, transported, stored. Your back does what cranes and forklifts will do in 2,000 years. You might be a potter, shaping clay into vessels that everyone needs and no one remembers. You might be a brickmaker, forming and firing the thousands of bricks that go into every building. You might be a street cleaner, wielding a broom against the endless tide of refuse that accumulates in a city of 1 million people with no modern waste management. If your luck is truly sour, you might be a sewer worker. The Cloaca Maxima needs maintenance, and someone has to descend into those dark, foul tunnels to clear blockages and repair damage. That someone is paid slightly more than other laborers, and for good reason. The work is dangerous, disgusting, and potentially fatal. But it's work, and in Rome, work means survival. The workday starts early, very early. The sun is barely up, but the foreman is already yelling. In Latin, which you understand well enough to know you're being insulted. He waves a stick, a flagellum, and you know that if you're late, you'll feel that stick across your back. Late means docked pay, if you're lucky. Late means a beating, if you're not. Late means fired, which in Rome means you starve, with the added indignity of doing so while technically free. Your tools are basic. A shovel made of wood and iron, the wood splintered, the iron blunted by use. A pickaxe, its head loose on the handle. A basket for carrying debris. Your hands, calloused and scarred, protected by nothing but the thickened skin of labor. No gloves, no hard hat, no steel-toed boots, no safety harness. Just you, your tools, and the work. You dig. You carry. You lift. You haul. The sun climbs higher, the heat intensifies, and you keep working. There are no water breaks, no scheduled rests, no concept that a worker might need to sit down occasionally. You work until the foreman says you can stop, and he says that only when the day's quota is met. And if you're a craftsman, a carpenter, a metalworker, a leather worker, you face different challenges. You compete with hundreds of others selling the same goods, undercutting each other's prices, struggling to attract customers who have endless options. Quality matters less than price, and price matters less than the customer's mood. A rich citizen might decide he doesn't like your face and take his business elsewhere for no reason at all. A patrician's wife might haggle over a price that represents a day's work for you, then tip her slave more than you'll earn in a week. The more elevated jobs aren't much better. A messenger runs through Rome's chaotic streets with scrolls under his arm, dodging carts and crowds and pickpockets, racing against time and weather and the simple unreliability of human cooperation. An accountant sits in a dusty office, scratching numbers on wax tablets, his work erased at the end of each day when the tablets are smoothed for reuse. A teacher, if he can find students whose parents will pay, tries to drill Latin grammar into the heads of children who'd rather be anywhere else, including the children of wealthy families who already think they're gods and see no reason to learn anything. Women work too. They spin wool into thread, weave cloth on looms, sell vegetables in the market, manage stalls, keep accounts, raise children, run households. A Roman woman's work never ends. She labors alongside men in many trades while also bearing and raising the next generation of laborers. And she does it all while facing the constant danger of childbirth, which kills more women than any war kills men. Multitasking before the term existed. Around midday, if you're lucky and your supervisor isn't in a bad mood, you get a break. Not long, perhaps half an hour, perhaps less. Just enough to eat something, drink something, and prepare for the afternoon's labor. Your lunch is much like your breakfast: bread, maybe some cheese if you can afford it, maybe some olives, maybe some figs. You eat quickly, standing or squatting, because there's nowhere to sit. You drink from a public fountain, cupping your hands to catch the water, trying not to think about where that water has been. Answer: through lead pipes, over public baths, past the latrines, and into your mouth. Enjoy. Other workers gather nearby, eating their own meager meals. Conversation flows, gossip about the foreman, complaints about the work, speculation about the latest news from the provinces. Someone heard that the legion in Germania is on the move again. Someone else heard that the price of grain is going up. A third person claims to have seen an omen. A bird with unusual markings, a liver with strange formations, and everyone nods sagely, because in Rome, omens matter. The break ends too soon. The foreman's voice cuts through the chatter, and you're back to work. The afternoon sun is hotter than the mornings, the work no lighter, your energy no higher. You keep going because stopping isn't an option. Let's talk about money. You're paid in sestertii and denarii, bronze and silver coins that bear the emperor's image and the empire's promises. A laborer might earn about 1 denarius per day, enough to buy bread and wine and maybe a little something extra, but not enough to save. Not enough to get ahead. Just enough to survive until tomorrow, when you'll earn another denarius and do it all again. Rent takes a chunk of your pay. Your tiny room in the insula costs perhaps 50 denarii per year, which sounds reasonable until you realize that's almost 2 months' wages. And that's for a 4th-floor cubiculum with no window, no kitchen, and neighbors who treat quiet hours as a suggestion. The landlord collects rent every month, and if you're late, he's not shy about throwing you out. Your possessions, that clay cup, that worn tunic, that 3-toothed comb, will join you in the street, where they'll be stolen within hours. Food takes another chunk. Bread costs about half a denarius for a day's supply. Wine, even the cheapest, watered stuff, adds more. If you want cheese or olives or the occasional bit of meat, you're spending even more. By the time you've paid for rent and food, there's nothing left. Nothing for savings, nothing for emergencies, nothing for the future. There is no future. There's only today, and tomorrow, and the endless repetition of work and sleep and work again until your body gives out or the empire forgets you exist. You've made it through the morning without fainting, without being flogged, without losing a finger to a misplaced hammer. Now it's time to navigate the Roman street, a challenge that would test the skills of a general and the patience of a saint. Picture it, midday in the Subura, Rome's most crowded district. The street is narrow, barely wide enough for 2 carts to pass. The buildings loom on either side, blocking the sun, creating perpetual twilight on the ground level. And the street is alive. Not in a poetic way, in a literal, overwhelming, sensory assault way. Rats scurry along the gutters, fat and fearless, thriving on the endless supply of garbage. Flies buzz in clouds, landing on everything and everyone. Stray dogs fight over scraps, their snarls echoing off the walls. A herd of goats blocks your path, driven by a goatherd who seems entirely unconcerned with pedestrian traffic. You push through them, your tunic acquiring new stains and smells. Merchants yell from every doorway, competing for attention in half a dozen languages. Latin, Greek, Aramaic, Egyptian, Gaulish, the empire's diversity compressed into a single chaotic street. Fresh bread. Olives from Greece. Fish sauce, best in Rome. Cheap sandals, made today. The noise is constant, overwhelming, inescapable. Children dart between adults, playing some game that involves running and shouting and occasionally tripping people. Beggars thrust their cups at every passerby, their litany of misfortune recited with the practiced cadence of professionals. And everywhere, are thieves, pickpockets who can lift a coin purse without breaking stride, cut purses who slash the leather straps and catch the falling coins, con artists who pretend to help while actually helping themselves. Let's talk about Roman infrastructure, because it's both magnificent and horrifying. Roman roads are engineering marvels, straight, durable, well-drained, designed to last millennia. The streets of Rome are less impressive. They're paved with large stone blocks, yes, but between those blocks are gaps where water collects, where garbage accumulates, where rats nest. And on top of those stones lies a layer of everything. Urine, from chamber pots emptied from upper windows despite laws against it. The laws exist, enforcement does not. Spilled wine from careless drinkers. Vomit from those who drank too much. Animal waste from the goats, dogs, donkeys, and occasional oxen that share the streets with humans. The remains of last night's garum production, dumped unceremoniously into the gutter. The contents of chamber pots that missed the gutter entirely. The middle of the street functions as an open sewer. The raised footpaths on either side are slightly safer, but only slightly. Step off the path without looking, and you'll baptize your sandal in the holy waters of human misery. The smell alone could make you weep. Wagons clatter by, their iron-shod wheels grinding against the stone, their drivers shouting curses at anyone who doesn't move fast enough. There are no speed limits, no traffic laws, no crosswalks, and definitely no concept of pedestrian right-of-way. Wagons don't stop for people, people stop for wagons, or they get stopped by wagons, permanently. Roman law actually bans heavy cart traffic during the day, a sensible rule designed to reduce congestion and accidents. But sensible rules have loopholes, and the loophole here is that drivers race through at night instead, in the dark, without lights, without brakes, without any concern for sleeping pedestrians who might stumble into their path. If you're not crushed by wheels during the day, you might be crushed at night. It's a 24-hour hazard. If the wagons don't get you, the crowds will. You're bumped, jostled, pushed, elbowed, and occasionally knocked down by the sheer press of humanity. Everyone's in a hurry, everyone's carrying something, and no one cares about your personal space. A basket swings into your ribs. A merchant's pole catches you in the face. An angry fishmonger shouts at you for blocking his stall, even though you were just trying to get past. And then there's the air. Rome's air is complex. Smoke from cooking fires and bakeries and metal forges hangs in a permanent haze, especially in the lower-lying districts. Incense from temples adds its own note, not unpleasant, but cloying when mixed with everything else. The public latrines contribute their unmistakable aroma, wafting on whatever breeze manages to penetrate the urban canyon. Tanners' shops add the sharp tang of curing hides. Fullers' workshops contribute the ammonia scent of stale urine, used for cleaning clothes. Dead animals sometimes just lie there. If a dog drops dead in a forum, someone might toss a cloth over it and walk away. If a horse collapses in the street, it will be butchered where it falls, the meat sold to the poor, the hide taken by tanners, the bones left for dogs and rats. The process takes days, during which the corpse ripens in the Roman sun. Open sewers run along many streets, their contents visible and fragrant. The Cloaca Maxima carries much of Rome's waste to the Tiber, but not all of it makes it that far. Some settles in the gutters, where it ferments and bubbles and releases gases that would make a modern person gag. And through it all, you walk. You breathe. You try not to think about what you're inhaling. Public spectacles add to the chaos. A politician's parade blocks traffic for hours, complete with trumpet players whose instruments produce notes that are simultaneously too loud and out of tune. A religious procession winds through the streets, priests carrying icons, worshippers chanting, animals destined for sacrifice adding their own contributions to the street's existing layer of filth. A spontaneous brawl breaks out between supporters of rival chariot teams, and suddenly you're caught in a riot, trying to escape without being stabbed or trampled. The Roman street is alive, and it's trying to kill you. You're sweaty, dusty, and desperately craving something cold to drink. The good news: you live in Rome, a city renowned for its aqueducts, those magnificent engineering marvels that carry fresh water from the hills straight into the heart of the empire. The Aqua Appia, the Aqua Marcia, the Aqua Claudia, 11 aqueducts by the end of the 1st century, bringing millions of gallons of water every day. The bad news: that water doesn't care about you. Unless you're wealthy enough to live in a domus with your own private fountain, you're sharing water with thousands of your closest neighbors. The public fountains are where everyone fills their jars, washes their feet, and occasionally dunks their children. The water is fresh when it arrives at the fountain. By the time you get to it, it's been through a lot. You approach the fountain, clay jar in hand. The crowd around it is thick, women with amphorae, children with buckets, slaves with water skins, all jostling for position. You wait your turn, watching the water splash and sparkle in the sunlight. It looks clean. It probably is clean, relatively speaking. The aqueducts bring water from protected sources, and the flow is constant, so what doesn't get used just keeps flowing to the next fountain or the next. But the fountain itself? The basin where everyone dips their containers? That's less clean. People wash their feet there. People wash their children there. People wash their clothes there, beating them against the stone. People do things you don't want to imagine there. You fill your jar anyway. You're thirsty, and the water is free, and worrying about contamination is a luxury for people who have alternatives. If you want to actually get clean, or at least cleaner, your best option is the thermae, the public baths. Rome has dozens of them, from small neighborhood facilities to enormous imperial complexes like the baths of Agrippa or the later baths of Trajan. They're everywhere, they're cheap, often free, and everyone uses them. Sounds civilized, right? Here's the thing: the water cycles through multiple pools with no soap, no chlorine, and very little shame. You'll sit in a tepidarium, warm bath, with a dozen other men, none of whom believe in modesty, all of whom are conducting business, socializing, or just relaxing. Conversations are loud, political, and occasionally conducted entirely in the nude. A man might try to sell you socks while soaking in the bath. Another might clean his ears with a stick, unconcerned about where the wax goes. A third might be receiving a massage from a slave, the oil dripping into the water, joining the general soup of human residue. The caldarium, hot bath, is worse. The heat is intense, the steam thick, the air heavy with moisture and the smell of wet bodies. You sit in water that's been through dozens of people before you, and you try not to think about it. The frigidarium, cold bath, offers relief from the heat, but the water is just as shared. If you were hoping to feel clean, think again. You're marinating in bacteria with a hint of eucalyptus oil from someone's massage. The baths are social institutions, not hygienic ones. You go to meet people, to conduct business, to relax, to escape the heat of the day. You don't go to get truly clean. And fun fact, the plumbing system often uses lead pipes. Yes, lead. The Romans were obsessed with engineering but not chemistry. Over time, that convenient indoor plumbing could cause all kinds of delightful side effects: anemia, gout, infertility, and if you're truly lucky, madness. The wealthier you were, the more lead you were exposed to, your private baths, your lead-lined kitchen, your lead pipes delivering water to your private fountain. The rich literally poison themselves with their own luxury. Want something safer than bathwater? Drink wine. Seriously. Water is viewed with suspicion, especially in the poorer districts where contamination from latrines and street runoff is common. The wealthy drink water from their private fountains, trusting that the distance from source to cup keeps it pure. Everyone else drinks wine, diluted wine, watered down until it's more water than wine, but still wine enough that the alcohol kills at least some of what might be living in the water. Romans of all classes, all ages, and both genders consume diluted wine throughout the day. Children drink it. Women drink it. Slaves drink it. It's safer than water, cheaper than milk, which spoils quickly in the heat, and more available than anything else. The empire runs on wine, not the fine vintages that poets celebrate, but the cheap, rough stuff that comes in amphorae from wherever it can be grown. So yes, you drink wine with your breakfast. You drink wine with your lunch. You drink wine with dinner, and between meals, and whenever you're thirsty. You're not getting drunk, the dilution sees to that, but you're maintaining a gentle buzz throughout the day, a low-level intoxication that makes the empire's demands slightly more bearable. The water you use for washing, for cooking, for everything else. That's straight from the fountain. You hope for the best. You pray to the appropriate gods. You try not to think about where that water has been. Rome brought water into the city before most of the world knew what a pipe was. But for the average citizen, every drink is a gamble. Enjoy your aqueducts. Just don't trust them. Welcome to the Roman Empire, where pain isn't just a possibility, it's the background music of your entire life. You stub your toe on a loose stone. There's no ice, no painkillers, no concept of elevation and rest. You grit your teeth and keep walking, hoping the toe either heals or falls off, whichever comes first. You break a bone. Wrap it in a dirty rag and try not to breathe too hard. Get a splinter. Good luck, that's how infections start, and infections are how you die. Roman society isn't big on comfort. There are no ergonomic tools, no padded seats, no concept of taking it easy. If you're a laborer, you're lifting bricks with a hernia and a prayer. If you're a soldier, you're marching 20 miles a day with bleeding feet and a scorpion bite on your thigh. If you're a woman in childbirth, well, welcome to agony. Your midwife might know a chant, and that's about it. Every part of your body is one misstep away from becoming an open wound or a cautionary tale. Your teeth ache constantly from the grit in your bread and the lack of dental care. Your back hurts from sleeping on straw and carrying loads that would make a modern worker sue. Your feet are a map of calluses, blisters, and scars. Your skin itches from lice and fleas and the general filth of existence. And unless you live near a temple with a very dedicated priest, your best option for medical care is homemade ointments, herbal smoke, or simply ignoring the problem until it either resolves itself or kills you. Let's talk about Roman medicine, which is less about healing and more about surviving the attempt. Roman medicine is a chaotic mix of Greek theory, mystical guesswork, and a surprising amount of luck. The core belief: the body is ruled by four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Feeling off balance? One of your humors is out of whack. The solution? Drain something. Your doctor, who may or may not also be your barber, immediately reaches for the leeches or a knife. Bloodletting is the default treatment for everything from migraines to moral failings. Have a cough. Let's open a vein. Depressed? We'll just drain some sadness out of your arm. Fever? Definitely needs bloodletting. The theory is that illness comes from excess humor, and the only way to restore balance is to remove the excess. Never mind that you're now weak, anemic, and possibly dying from blood loss. Your humors are balanced. Surgery? Oh yes, it exists. Roman surgeons have scalpels, forceps, bone drills, and even tools for removing arrows. What they don't have are anesthetics. You stay conscious through the entire procedure, gripping the edge of a wooden table, screaming into a block of wood, while a man in a dirty toga digs into your flesh with the confidence of someone who once saw a scroll about it. Antiseptics aren't really a thing. They might wash wounds with wine or vinegar, which does help a little but also burns like divine punishment. Infection is a common side effect of surgery. So is death. Dental work. Picture a blacksmith. Now picture your mouth. That's the scene. If you're not sick enough for surgery, you might receive a prescription. These vary wildly. You might be given honey, actually helpful for some things, garlic, also helpful, crushed beetles, less helpful, or a paste made of herbs, ash, and very specific types of animal dung, definitely not helpful. The dung prescriptions are real. Roman doctors believed that the properties of the animal could be transferred to the patient through its waste. Wolf dung for courage. Bull dung for strength. Goat dung for something. You swallow this mixture, trying not to think about where it came from, and hope for the best. If things get worse, you're advised to sleep in a temple, pray to Asclepius, the god of healing, and hope that divine dreams will deliver your cure. Priests interpret your dreams, prescribe more treatments, and collect your offerings. The temple becomes a combination hospital, hotel, and bank, with the gods as the ultimate physicians. And if none of it works? Your doctor shrugs. Your family lights a candle. Your neighbors start whispering about what kind of omen your death might be. Bad deaths, sudden, painful, unexplained, are omens of disaster. Good deaths, peaceful, expected, dignified, are signs of divine favor. You have no control over which you get. It's not that Romans didn't care about health. They just hadn't quite figured out what helped and what murdered you more efficiently. Their medicine was a mix of genuine insight and complete nonsense, and the line between the two was invisible to them. So next time you sneeze, be grateful for modern antibiotics. Be grateful that you don't live in a world where healing often starts with blood loss and continues with dung pills. Be grateful that when you're sick, you can see a doctor who actually knows what they're doing. In Rome, your doctor might kill you, and it wouldn't even be malpractice, it would just be Tuesday. After a long day of sweating, bleeding, dodging carts, and breathing Rome's unique atmosphere, you're starving. Time for dinner, or as the Romans call it, cena. Just don't expect anything comforting. Let's start with what's not on the table. No pizza. No pasta. No tomatoes, no potatoes, no chocolate, no sugar, and absolutely no coffee. None of those things have been discovered or imported yet. This isn't Italian cuisine as you know it, this is pre-Italy Italy, edible survival. You sit down to a wooden bowl of something brown and vaguely hot. It's probably pulse, a porridge made of spelt, beans, or lentils. It tastes like wet gravel with a hint of herb if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it tastes like wet gravel without the herb. You eat it because it's food and you're hungry, not because it's good. Protein is rare. Unless you caught it, trapped it, or fished it yourself, meat is a luxury. Even when you do get some, it's often off. Roman cooking doesn't use refrigeration, so preservation means heavy salting, smoking, or marinating in garum. Garum, that fermented fish sauce, appears in everything. It smells like dead ocean and burns your soul just thinking about it. If you're feeling festive, there might be boiled vegetables. Cabbage, leeks, turnips, the hardy plants that grow despite neglect. Hard cheese, if you can afford it. Figs, if they're in season. Olives, if you have a tree or a generous neighbor. Rich Romans dine on very different fare. They eat exotic dishes that mostly scream, "Look how rich I am and how little I care about taste." Roasted flamingo, tongues of flamingos, actually, why eat the whole bird when you can eat just the tongues? Stuffed dormice, fattened on nuts and honey, then baked and served as appetizers. Jellyfish with vinegar. Sow's womb stuffed with sausage meat. Peacock brains. Anything that's rare, expensive, and slightly disgusting qualifies as a delicacy. They also have access to spices from the ends of the earth, pepper from India, cinnamon from Arabia, ginger from who knows where. These spices cost more than gold, and the rich use them to show off. Your dinner has no spices. Your dinner has salt, if you're lucky. Your wine is watered down, always. Drinking it straight is seen as barbaric, the habit of uncivilized northerners who don't know better. But don't worry, the water it's mixed with is probably questionable too, so you're just choosing how fast you want to get sick. Drink the wine straight, and you risk drunkenness and its consequences. Water it down, and you risk dysentery. Choose your poison. Dinner is eaten with your hands. Forks haven't been invented yet, you'll use your fingers to scoop food, your knife to cut what needs cutting, and a spoon for liquids. There are no napkins, you wipe your hands on a cloth shared with 10 other people, or you just use your tunic and hope it's clean enough. It's not. You eat with your family if you have one, or with fellow workers if you don't. The meal is quick, no lingering over courses, no philosophical discussions, no entertainment. You eat, you clean up, such as it is, and you prepare for sleep. Dessert? Maybe dried fruit. Maybe nuts. Maybe nothing. The Romans don't believe in sugar rushes before bed. They believe in survival, and survival means eating what's available and then stopping. By the end of the meal, your stomach is full but uneasy. Your breath smells like garlic, wine, and slight despair. You're tired, sore, and ready for sleep. But sleep in Rome isn't simple. The night brings its own challenges. You've survived work, dinner, and another day of breathing Rome's atmosphere. You might think you're safe now, that as long as you keep your head down, the law will protect you. Ah. That's adorable. In Rome, the law doesn't protect you. It reminds you that you're small, replaceable, and that mercy is a luxury reserved for statues of emperors. First off, legal status matters. If you're a citizen, you have rights, in theory. You can't be flogged in public unless someone important gets really annoyed. You get a proper trial, with witnesses and evidence and all the trappings of justice. But proper trials cost money, and money is something you don't have. Justice in Rome is like everything else, available to those who can afford it. If you're a non-citizen, justice comes in the form of a fist, a branding iron, or a swift execution outside the city gates. The empire has millions of subjects who aren't citizens, and their lives are worth exactly what the nearest official decides they're worth. Slaves. They're property. If a slave murders his master, even if the master deserved it, every slave in the household might be executed. Just to send a message. That message, don't even think about it. If you're accused of a crime, don't expect a calm chat with a lawyer. Trials are public theater. The wealthier party brings witnesses, bribes, and dramatic gestures. You bring your tunic and a sinking feeling. If you cry on cue, that might help. If you have a patron to speak for you, that helps more. If you have no patrons, pray to Jupiter and hope the magistrate isn't hung over. Punishments are designed not just to hurt, but to deter. Thieves can be branded on the forehead, marked forever as criminals. Their hands might be broken, ensuring they can never steal again, or work again, but that's not the law's concern. Liars might get their tongues pierced. Fraudsters face public flogging or exile if they're lucky. Exile doesn't sound terrible until you realize that exile means leaving everything you know, with no money, no connections, and no hope of return. If you insult the emperor, that's not jail time. That's death. Usually creative death. Crucifixion is popular, long, slow, humiliating. It isn't reserved just for Jesus, it's the go-to for rebels, robbers, and anyone the state wants to make an example of. You hang on a cross until you die, which takes days, and everyone watches. That's the point. And remember, law enforcement isn't there to help you. The vigiles are Rome's version of firefighters and police, underpaid, overworked, and often corrupt. They patrol the streets at night, looking for fires and crimes. If you're mugged, they might shrug. If you bribe them, they might help you mug someone else. The cohorts urbani are slightly more professional, they handle serious crime and keep order in the city. But they report to the emperor, not to the people. Their job is to protect the state, not you. If you become a threat to the state, they'll find you. If you're just a victim, they might not care. Rome has laws written in stone, recited in forums, celebrated in rhetoric. But those laws serve power, not justice. They protect the wealthy, control the poor, and maintain the order that allows the empire to function. You're part of that order, a small, replaceable part. The law will crush you as readily as it protects you, depending on who you are and who you know. So keep your head down. Don't attract attention. Don't insult anyone important. Don't steal, don't cheat, don't draw the wrong kind of notice. Survive. That's all the law asks of you. After surviving the streets and dodging Roman justice, you might hope to find comfort in religion. A little peace. A little personal spirituality. Nope. Not here. In the Roman Empire, religion isn't a private affair. It's an institution, an ever-present cloud of incense and obligation wrapped around every waking moment of your life. You don't choose your gods, they choose you. And there are so many. There's a god for everything. Door hinges have a god, Cardea. Sewers have a goddess, Cloacina. Boundaries have a god, Terminus. Even mildew has a god, Robigus. You can't walk 5 paces without crossing a shrine, a temple, an altar, a sacred space. If you don't pause to bow, light a candle, or mutter a prayer, you're not just being rude, you're inviting catastrophe. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, the gods will notice your neglect. And when your roof collapses, everyone will nod and say, "Ah, yes, he skipped the Saturnalia offerings." Religious festivals fill the calendar. Dozens per year, sometimes multiple per week. On those days, business stops. Animals are sacrificed. The air smells like roasting bull and wet marble. You attend out of piety, but also out of fear. If the gods aren't honored properly, they'll retaliate with plagues, droughts, or a really bad harvest that ruins everyone's lentil supply. The sacrifices are public spectacles. Priests in elaborate robes lead animals to the altar, bulls, sheep, goats, pigs. They sprinkle the animals with wine and sacred meal, then kill them with a single blow. The blood is collected, the entrails examined for omens, the meat divided. Some goes to the gods, burned on the altar. Some goes to the priests. Some goes to the people, distributed as a kind of divine welfare. You stand in the crowd, watching, participating, hoping that the gods notice your presence. You've brought a small offering of your own, a few grains of incense, a bit of cake, something you can afford. You toss it onto the altar fire and mutter a prayer. The gods probably aren't listening to you specifically, they're busy with the empire's big concerns, but you pray anyway. It's better than not praying. And then there's emperor worship. The state wants you to revere the emperor, not just as a ruler, but as a living god. You're expected to offer incense at his altar, sing his praises, and never, ever roll your eyes during a triumphal procession. That's treason adjacent. If you're caught not participating in public worship, say, you're a little too quiet during the Vestalia, or you don't show up to toss grain into the temple flame, you could be labeled impious, atheistic, or worst of all, suspicious. Suspicion in Rome is like blood in shark-infested waters. It attracts attention you don't want. And if you're part of a foreign cult, keep that under wraps unless it's officially approved. The state doesn't like unfamiliar gods, unless they bring wine, taxes, or new soldiers. The Romans are generally tolerant of other religions, but that tolerance has limits. Worship Isis in private? Fine. Worship Isis in public and attract a following? That's a problem. Worship a god who demands that you refuse to honor the emperor? That's execution. Roman religion isn't about belief. It's about ritual. You don't have to feel it, you just have to do it correctly, on time, and in public. The gods don't care about your heart. They care about your actions. Do the rituals, make the offerings, and you're fine. Skip them, and you're inviting disaster. So you bow to Jupiter, offer to Mars, nod to the emperor's genius, and hope that somewhere in the divine chaos, someone's watching out for you. You've bowed to the gods, avoided a lawsuit, and survived a public bath without contracting something mythical. But here comes the most exhausting part of Roman life, the social hierarchy. A brutal, finely tuned machine where every word, gesture, and sandal strap placement could make or break you. Roman society is a ladder, but it's covered in oil and lined with daggers. At the top are the senators, old money, togas with purple stripes, land ownership so vast it has its own postal code. Below them, the equestrians, the wealthy business class, rich enough to matter but not quite noble enough to rule. Then come the plebeians, people like you, the struggling middle and lower classes. Below that, freedmen, former slaves, foreigners, and that guy who accidentally insulted a statue of Augustus once. Each level has its own rules, its own privileges, its own ways of looking down on the level below. Senators sneer at equestrians who sneer at plebeians who sneer at freedmen who sneer at slaves. Everyone sneers at foreigners. Want to move up? You'll need a patron, a powerful individual who protects you in exchange for lifelong loyalty, errands, favors, and the occasional vote. It's like having a boss, godfather, and landlord rolled into one charmingly condescending package. Each morning, you visit your patron's home as part of the salutatio. You wait in line with other clients, praise his haircut, compliment his son's toga, and beg for a favor. Usually money. Sometimes food. Occasionally a recommendation for a job. If you're lucky, he tosses you a coin and lets you carry his litter through the forum. Congratulations, you're now connected. But connections come with obligations. Your patron expects your support in elections, your presence at his events, your voice in his favor whenever it matters. You're part of his entourage, his display of importance. The more clients a patron has, the more important he seems. You're not a person to him, you're a number, a piece in his game of status. Still, it's better than having no patron at all. Without a patron, you're alone in a city that eats the alone. Every move you make is watched and judged. Your clothes must be clean, not fashionable, just clean. Your speech must be proper, no slang, no accents that mark you as provincial. Your friends must be carefully selected, the wrong companions can ruin your reputation. And whatever you do, don't show ambition that makes people nervous. If you rise too quickly, others will conspire to knock you back down. Socially or literally. Networking is warfare. Gossip is currency. The wrong comment at a banquet can end your career. The right marriage can save your entire bloodline. Marriage. Yes. Love is for poets and Greeks. The rest of Rome marries for alliances and estate access. You marry the person your family chooses, or you don't marry at all. Your children are raised to continue the family line, to inherit whatever you've managed to accumulate, to climb a little higher on the ladder than you did. And even if you climb high, don't get too comfortable. One bad harvest, one missed ritual, one jealous rival, and it's all over. You won't even hear the dagger coming. The sun dips below the rooftops, and for a fleeting moment, you think, maybe now, finally, you can rest. But nightfall in Rome isn't a time for peace. It's a shift in tone, from noisy and chaotic to dark and downright lethal. First, let's talk about lighting. There isn't any. Unless you're rich enough to burn oil lamps all night, and few are, you rely on moonlight, memory, and blind hope to find your way through the labyrinthine alleys. If you trip and fall, no one's helping. They might just take your sandals. The vigiles are supposed to patrol, prevent fires, and stop crimes. In practice, they're overworked, underpaid, and often more interested in napping than heroics. Some are brave. Most are bribable. All are outnumbered. Criminals know this. Thieves, muggers, and the occasional bored ex-gladiator roam the shadows, looking for easy marks. If you're walking home alone, you're the easy mark. It doesn't matter who you are, unless you're armed, fast, or invisible, you're at risk. And then there's fire. Rome's greatest nighttime terror. Your insula, that charming death trap you sleep in, is made of wood and dreams. Cooking after dark is illegal for this reason, but laws mean little to a hungry tenant. A single overturned lamp can reduce an entire block to ash in hours. The Great Fire of 64 CE didn't start itself, but once it did, it raged like Mars in a bad mood. You might think your building is safe, until you smell smoke at midnight and realize there's no organized evacuation plan. You grab your one tunic, your chamber pot, and maybe your dignity, and sprint for your life down a collapsing staircase. If you make it out, you stand in the street and watch your home, your possessions, your neighbors, your life, turn to embers. The vigiles might show up with buckets. They might not. The fire burns until it runs out of fuel. If it's not fire or thieves, it's noise. Drunken parties echo through the streets. Processions for obscure gods parade by with drums and shouting. If a senator's mistress is upset, everyone within a 3-block radius knows. Sleep in ancient Rome is a luxury. Silence is a myth. You press your face to your straw mattress, trying to block out the sounds. Your neighbor coughs like a dying goat. Rats scurry through the walls. Somewhere nearby, someone screams, passion or murder, you can't tell which. The building creaks and groans, settling into its nightly terror. And through it all, you try to sleep. You try to rest. You try to gather strength for tomorrow, when you'll do it all again, but sleep doesn't come easily. Your mind races with the day's events, with tomorrow's worries, with the endless calculus of survival. Did you offend anyone today? Will your patron remember you tomorrow? Is that cough getting worse? Can you afford bread in the morning? The night stretches on, dark and dangerous and loud. And then, eventually, the sky begins to lighten. The eastern horizon turns gray, then pink, then gold. The roosters start their chorus. The city stirs. You've survived another night. You've survived another day. You've done what millions of Romans did for centuries, you endured. You woke up in a crumbling insula. You survived public toilets, chariot traffic, gladiator gore, lead poisoning, leeches, religious festivals, burning rooftops, and half-cooked lentils soaked in fermented fish sauce. You bowed to gods you don't understand, obeyed laws that don't protect you, and slept through riots, rats, and the occasional public decapitation. You're dirty. You're tired. You're possibly infected. You're emotionally scarred by the communal sponge. And it's only been one day. Would you last another? Honestly? No. Most modern humans, with our air conditioning, antibiotics, and 5-minute delivery windows, would crumble by lunchtime. We'd give up before the second round of garum. We'd trade our entire denarii pouch for a hot shower and a chair with a back on it. And yet the Romans did it for centuries. Because here's the maddening, magnificent thing, in the middle of all this filth, brutality, and noise, Rome worked. Somehow, they built cities, roads, aqueducts, libraries, temples, amphitheaters. They expanded their empire across continents. They administered laws, developed philosophy, mapped the stars, performed surgeries, and invented concrete that still holds up better than most modern buildings. They created systems that shaped Europe and beyond for 2,000 years. Latin became the root of half the languages you hear today. Their architecture inspired cathedrals, parliaments, and college campuses. Their political concepts, republics, senates, veto power, still echo through modern democracies. But it came at a cost. For the average Roman, not the emperors, not the marble-bathed elite, daily life was a hard-fought grind. And yet they endured. They adapted. They didn't have a choice. Rome wasn't made of gold. It was made of sweat, fear, ambition, and survival. Layer by layer, person by person, century by bloody century. And that's why it lasted. You don't need to survive ancient Rome. You just need to understand it. And maybe, just maybe, appreciate that someone, somewhere, once walked those same filthy streets and helped build the empire so you could sit here today, clean, safe, and mildly horrified. The sun rises on another Roman day. The insula stirs. The vendors begin their chorus. The foreman starts yelling. And somewhere in the Subura, another ordinary Roman wakes up to do it all again. Finis. Thank you for walking these ancient streets with me. If this journey through time resonated with you, if it made you think or feel or appreciate your modern plumbing just a little more, consider sharing it with someone who needs perspective on their own hard day. Because no matter how difficult life gets, at least you're not wiping with a communal sponge. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, I'm grateful you joined me. Sleep well. Your bed is comfortable, your bathroom is private, and your water is clean. You are wealthier than any Roman emperor could imagine. Until next time.